everybody, and welcome to a very special board gaming review and gameplay demo. The reason that today's is special is because it's effectively the first one that was ever suggested to me. So I'm very excited to show you guys that I will be talking about Illuminati. For those of you who haven't played this, Illuminati comes to us from Steve Jackson Games, the same people who brought us the crazy world of Munchkin. But for now, we're going to be talking about this game, which is a wonderful game. And it's a lot of fun, but it still has plenty of crazy wackiness, just like in Munchkin. It's a really amazing thing that is surprisingly strategically deep. But that said, it obviously does take a lot more time because of that. It is a lot more involved. It has a lot more nuance to it than a lot of other games that I've talked about, so this is going to be a relatively long review, particularly the aspect of the gameplay demo. But regardless, it is one of my favorite games to play, especially again with people who understand the humor and things of that nature. But it's great. It's got area control. It's essentially got auction systems. It's got hidden roles. Potentially, it's got hidden agendas, so to speak. It's got hidden win conditions, all that kind of stuff. It's an amazing game that squeezes a whole lot of stuff into a really tiny box. It's a great deal of fun. It's a wonderful game. Before I get started as far as how to play and what to do, I'm going to jump right into what it is similar to, though. It's relatively difficult to pick a single game that Illuminati is similar to. As I mentioned very briefly, this game has a lot of different aspects that make it similar to a lot of other games. It has what it can be called the equivalent of an auction bidding system, where you're just fighting back and forth trying to one-up other people. It does have a dice rolling mechanic. It has a little bit of luck, but not too much. You can mitigate a lot of it. It's got area control similar to things like King of Tokyo. In a way, this does have press your luck, because you keep trying and trying. You're trying to get bigger and bigger things, but if you're trying for something really big, then people are going to stop you, things like that. So I think that might be the best analogy, just in terms of the mindset that you're going to go into it with. But that said, as I also mentioned, this is from the same company that brought us the amazingness of Munchkin, so you do have all the crazy, wacky, nonsensical, random humor in it that just fits so perfectly into so many different gaming groups. It's just one of those weird games that is relatively difficult to say what it's similar to, simply because it has so many things from different other games. But overall, this ends up being somewhat a press your luck game, because you're trying to get something bigger and bigger every single time. But it's also alliances, broken alliances, negotiations, all of that kind of stuff. So for me, it's the negotiation, very similar to Cosmic Encounter. The aspect of bidding up and up and up. You got things like somewhat like Power Grid, but not really quite as much, because you're mostly canceling out other people's money. So in terms of King of Tokyo, similar with the press your luck aspect. So there's a lot of different games that do things similarly to Illuminati, but there is only one Illuminati itself. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and jump right into my gameplay demo, just how it works, how to play, all of that good stuff. I hope that you enjoy, but do brace yourself, because this is going to be a long one. Alright, we're ready to get started with a quick play of Illuminati. So this game is really awesome. It's a lot of fun, but it's got some minor details to the actual gameplay that are very important. First and foremost, I've got this set up for 4 people. We've got down here, and then over there, there, and there. We've got just the 4 corners here are the cardinal directions. I'll explain what these black cards mean. So you can see, first off, there are 2 distinct different backs to the cards. The black ones are the starting ones, and then these are the regular cards that we've got. So there's several different types of cards that you can use in this. The primary ones are these, the group cards. So the group ones will have a couple of different things. First, it'll have the name, it'll have outgoing and one incoming arrow, and they tend to have at least one, but some of them have no outgoing arrows. They'll have some kind of text, maybe, possibly, they don't have to, and then they'll have power, resistance, and income. Some do not have power, though. And lastly, they will have have some kind of alignment of some sort, right? So those are most of them. So there's the Federal Reserve, and et cetera, et cetera. The other major type of card is this. This is an example of a special card. As you go through the turns, you'll be drawing cards every turn, and depending on if you draw one of these, then you'll say, I have a special card, just to let everybody know, so that way they'll be aware of it. All right. Now, looking at these main group cards, there are a couple of things to note. First and foremost, you've got the name, the image, etc., and then there's power. So power is how you control other things, essentially. Resistance is your ability to resist being controlled. Income is how much money this is going to get every turn, and then the alignments affect how well you can be controlled and how well you can control other things. And then the arrows indicate how the control flows. So for example, in this case, Texas will be controlled from an arrow going this way. So for example, we could have the Federal Reserve controlling Texas just like that. Or you could do it like that. Okay? Easy enough, right? The thing with power is that there's actually two different types of power. There is direct power, which is this, and then there's something like the yuppies, which might be more commonly called hipsters nowadays. But either way, we've got the two different powers that are separated by a slash. The first power is the regular power, and the second power is transferable. You can use that in a different attack on your turn. So the end goal of this game is one of two things. Each of the main Illuminati cards, these black-backed cards right here that every player has, each one of them has a special thing that they can do in order to win the game, or you can have X number of groups controlled, and that will let you win. So for example, on the back of the rules here, it actually gives a very nice summary of how you play. So you can see here basic goals. Depending on the number of players, you'll need 13, 12, 10, 9, or 8 total groups being controlled. And if you get that, then you win. Right? That's the basic premise, the basic goal of the game. So first off, I'll talk a little bit about how the groups interact with one another. There are a total of 10 different alignments. You've got government, which is, for example, Texas is government, as is the Federal Reserve, which means exactly what it sounds like. And in this case, it's talking about the U.S. government specifically. The opposite of government is communist. So this is really like the Soviets and the Chinese and people like that, essentially. So, I mean, communist countries. So there, for example, the KGB is obviously communist. Next is the liberal versus conservative. So there we've got Republicans, which are obviously conservative. And then somewhere in the deck is liberal. I don't think I've got any here. We've got conservative, well, we've got peaceful and violent, which again are opposites. The opposites are very important to have. Where the peaceful and violent are exactly that, where it's just the philosophy of whether or not you're okay with violence, right? And then they have a really weird thing, which is straight versus weird. So this refers to the social orientation of the group. In other words, is it, I guess you could best say, is it not necessarily common knowledge, but socially, maybe uninspired would be a somewhat oddly nice way to say it. And it's like nobody's going to really bat an eye if you say, you know, you're a Republican or whatever it is. That's not really a very strange thing. But there are some things that are noticeably weird. For example, the evil geniuses for a better tomorrow are kind of weird, because they're evil geniuses for a better tomorrow. I have no personal thing wrong with the evil geniuses for a better tomorrow, but others probably do. So that's just the idea, is that it's the strange things that people either don't understand or think are just completely weird. There you go, tabloids. That's a good one. That's a weird one. So straight and weird are opposite of one another. And then there is another group called criminal. And the criminal is exactly that. It's where you extort money, so like the mafia, things like that. They're the international cocaine smugglers, just all that kind of stuff. And criminal does not have an opposite. The other really weird thing is, or the other really weird group is fanatic. Fanatic is actually its own opposite, and that's going to come into play in just a little bit. Now, the way that the turns actually go is the first thing you do is you collect your income. So every single card will have an income of some sort. So you see the Bermuda Triangle, for example, my Illuminati, has an income of 9. Every turn I will get 9 money. The Goldfish Fanciers will receive 1 income every turn. I don't know how they make money, but apparently Goldfish Fanciers are able to make money. Okay? So that is the first thing that you do. And incidentally, one way to speed up the game, you can actually get your income earlier, but like just before your turn, so that way you don't have to wait and dig through the entire bank to find the money that you need. And on that note, one thing is that the money is actually secret. And normally I don't like using money that comes with games. I prefer to use poker chips or something like that. But in this case, this money is really much better because it has a blank side, so you can keep it secret. And these are actually called megabucks. That's the name of the currency in this case. The next thing is that we draw a card. So at the beginning of the game, there are 4 face-up cards that are what we call the uncontrolled cards. These are the cards that we are able to go and attack, so that we can try to get them into our little groups here. That's the idea. But on your turn, you draw 1 card, and if it's a special card, then you keep it. You say, I have a special card, and you put it face down in front of you. Or you can put it face up, whatever you want to do. It doesn't matter. Just as long as you don't hide the fact that you have a special card. That's the only thing. And then you're able to take 2 actions, which I'll get to in a little bit. And then you can take free actions, which are things like you can move money around, and you can get rid of a group freely. You can give away stuff. You can use special cards, some stuff like that. There are certain special cards that require an action, but most of them don't. In addition, if you decide to make no actions whatsoever, if you literally do nothing, then you just get 5 megabucks and you put it on your Illuminati, just like that. Easy enough. Okay. So that's the sequence of the actual turns. And during the setup, then we start off with the 4 in the middle, and everybody gets their money. So for example, the Gnomes of Zurich, because they are the Gnomes of Zurich, Switzerland, start off with a total of 12. The Bermuda Triangle here starts off with a total of 8, or 9 rather. Everybody just starts off with whatever the income of their particular Illuminati is. I'll get into the specific goals later on, like the unique goals. Okay, there's 2 and 5. There we go. Close enough. So now we are set up and actually ready to play the game itself. The major thing for this is 2 dice that come with the game, and on these, the number 1 is actually replaced by the Illuminati pyramid here, triangle technically. So that's the 1. The way that this works is you want to control groups. Like I said, that's one of the main ways to win. That's the basic goal. And you use several things to your advantage. First, you've got your base Illuminati here, which has a set power that you can use to attack something. So the actions that you're allowed to take, you've got the attacking a group, which consists of either controlling, neutralizing, or destroying it. Transferring money between your own things, moving a group, or you can actually give a group to somebody else. Those are the main actions that you can actually take on your turn, and you do 2 of those. So what are the different what are the different attack types? Well, the attack to control is where you want to take one of these and you want to have the arrows line up with yours and you add it to your tree. So for example, I would do something like that, or I could put it down there, or I could put it down there. Okay? That is the idea of an attack to control. An attack to neutralize is where, let's say the Gnomes of Zurich had the underground newspapers already. They've got it set up over there. Let me move the camera over just a smidge. So the attack to neutralize would take this one that is attached to the Gnomes of Zurich, and it would put it back into the middle. That is a neutralizing action. Attack to destroy is similar to a neutralizing action, but instead of putting something back in the middle, it actually gets removed from the game. And you can also do that from things in the middle of the table as well. You can destroy them. right? If you just really don't want somebody to have it or whatever it happens to be, right? So those are the different types of attacks that you are able to do, and depending on how the money goes and how everything works out, then you'll be able to do different things and all sorts of crazy stuff. I'll just go through a round, or a couple of turns rather, so that I can show you how it works. So the basic premise of the attack is you would say, for example, I am the Bermuda Triangle and I'm going to go first. And my power is actually I can reorganize my groups freely at the end of my turn. So what do I want? I'm going to try to control Hollywood, because Hollywood is actually pretty good. It gives you 5 income and it has no resistance. In order to control something, you take the power value of the card you're attacking with, in this case a power of 8, and you subtract the resistance. So in this case it's 8 minus 0, which is 8. Now what you can do is you can spend megabucks to increase that number. So for example, if I spend 2, then it would go from an 8 up to a 10. Now the idea is that I have to roll a 10 or lower on 2 dice. The problem is if you roll an 11 or a 12, it fails always no matter what. Okay, so we're going to try it and see if it works. There we go. I rolled a 7. I have successfully controlled Hollywood with my Bermuda Triangle. And now Hollywood is mine. Whenever you get control of a new thing, then you're actually allowed to do a free money move. So you can take a little bit of money and put it over there. Money on groups is good because it allows you to protect them as much as you can. Okay? That is the basic idea of an attack to control. Now, attack to neutralize is a little bit different. So let's say, once again, that the gnomes of Zurich over here have control of Hollywood. Then an attack to neutralize is I am attacking that, and I have a +6 to my attack. But there's a couple other little caveats for attacking somebody else's stuff. So we won't worry about that right now. The last one, attacking to destroy. It's power versus power rather than power versus resistance. Okay? Easy enough, yeah? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you not only how the game works just as a round, but also another way of doing the attacking, because what's going to end up happening is you're going to be building these giant webs, these really big trees of various sorts that will be able to do different things at different times. So we'll go ahead and say I got Texas, slap some money on it, so I'll be able to spend it. Alright, so now I've got Texas. We've got violent, conservative, and government as the alignments for Texas. The way that the alignments work is they help you if you're trying to control, but they hurt you if you're trying to destroy. Okay? So, for example, Hollywood is liberal, whereas Texas is conservative. Since those are opposites, if I was trying to control Hollywood with Texas, it would mean that I was at a -4. So instead of, for example, this has a power of 6 versus a resistance 2, instead of having a 6, I would be automatically at a 2 because of the bias between the two alignments. So I probably wouldn't want to try to do that. But the post office, on the other hand, is government. Because Texas is also government, that means I would have a +4 to the attack to control. So that might be something I'd be willing to do. And then so the post office has a resistance of 3. Texas has a power of 6. 6 minus 3 is 3. And then +4 for the alignments, that would be 7 right off the bat. So I would be at a much better place to try to control the post office. The problem is the post office gives you -1 income because of the post office. So, just stuff like that. It's really interesting. It gets very exciting, mostly because, like mini games from Steve Jackson Games, the other players are allowed to mess with you. They're allowed to screw around with everything that you're trying to do. The way that you can spend the megabucks, like I said, you can spend $1 from whatever is trying to control something. So, for example, from Texas, I could spend dollars to try to control the post office, or I could spend them from the Bermuda Triangle. But let's say I had Hollywood over here with some money. I would not be able to spend the money from Hollywood to try to help Texas control the post office. It has to be from whatever group is trying to control the new group or from your main Illuminati. That's how the money is spent on the attacks to control. Okay? But let's say I am trying to control the post office and I'm winning decidedly, and let's say that for whatever reason the gnomes wouldn't want. Let's say the network really wants to have the post office. It's actually really good for the network. So then the network can spend money and it does the opposite. Instead of making my number go up, it makes it go down. So right now I'm at 7, and now I'm at 6, and now I'm at 1 because the network paid 6 megabucks. So that means that I either have to try to roll a 1 on 2 dice, or I have to spend more money. The problem is you can abandon an attack. Before you spend any money on it. After you spend money on it, you are committed and you have to follow through with the attack. The other option that you have is if you have any cards, any of these special cards, then you're actually able to discard. You're able to discard a card to get what's called a privileged attack. So you can say, well, I'm not really going to be able to use this card, or I'm not planning to use it, so I'm going to get rid of it, and now this is a privileged attack, and nobody can mess with you, right? And it's actually kind of ironic because Deep Agent is play this card after privilege has been invoked. The privilege is totally abolished. So it's kind of ironic to use this to invoke a privileged attack. But that's the kind of thing that you would use if you're going to try to take control of, I don't know, something really important. There's a lot of things that are fairly important, like nuclear power companies. You get some decent stats on, but there's stuff like the CIA, the FBI, the Men in Black. They're the Clone Rangers. There's a lot of cool stuff there. So some of these are very powerful cards, and it would be much better if your fellow friends would not attack you. So you can make the attack privileged by doing that if you so desire. Right? Orbital Mind Control Raise is awesome, by the way. So lots and lots of cool stuff, lots of random groups that you can get, right? With varying degrees of usability. So I already mentioned that the basic goal, the main goal for everybody, is to get some number of groups. Once one person has whatever that number of groups is, that person wins. Okay? So here we'll reset this ahead of playing through a couple of rounds. So actually we'll leave the money there. So the basic way that this will go around is it keeps going around and around until somebody has that, or like I mentioned, we also have the special ones, the special goals. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and go over the other Illuminati, all of the Illuminati, and what their special goals are. So I already mentioned several times that the main goal is to have X number of groups, depending on the number of players. So we've got the Discordian Society, which are really like weird groups. So the goal for these guys is to have a total of 5 weird groups, and then they win. They also get +4 on any attempt to control weird groups, and they are immune to attacks from government or straight groups that come from other players. So that's pretty powerful. One thing to note, though, is that weird groups, for example, the cycle gangs, rarely have outgoing arrows. They only have the one that lets you control them, but then they can't do anything themselves because they have no power. In order to control something, you need power. So that's kind of the problem with a lot of the weird groups is the instructions say that, in part, both the weird and the fanatical groups, they're dispersed enough that you cannot destroy them, but at the same time, they're also dispersed so much that they can't really conglomerate with one another to get anything effectively done. So that's kind of the problem with the weird and the fanatical groups, or some fanaticals anyway. Next up, the Bavarian Illuminati. This is one that most people are probably familiar with when they hear the word Illuminati. These guys are allowed to make a privileged attack by spending 5 megabucks as opposed to discarding a card. They also have an enormous power advantage at the beginning, which is really cool. But their particular thing is to have groups that have a total power of 35 or more, so they get a good head start with the 10. So effectively, you need 25 more power from various groups. The Servants of Cthulhu, these guys love blowing stuff up. They get +2 to destroy any group, and then their goal is to destroy, I believe it's 8 groups. So, very exciting. I don't know if I mentioned it, but the Discordian Society, their goal is to control 5 weird groups, because they're all about weird. The Society of Assassins, +4 on any attempt to neutralize. So if you guys are familiar with Assassin's Creed, these are the same guys from the Assassin's Creed video games, the Society of Assassins. And the goal for these ones are actually to control 6 violent groups, which is actually relatively easy because a decent amount of groups are violent. Okay? Now the ones that we've actually got in play here, mine is the Bermuda Triangle, which I'm sure many of you have heard of. These guys are allowed to reorganize their groups freely at the end of the turn. Normally you have to keep trees in place. So for example, if I've got the underground newspapers controlling cycle gangs, then ordinarily if I'm going to move these, I would just have to move them like this. I wouldn't be able to separate the two. But since I am the Bermuda Triangle, I would be allowed to move the cycle gangs anywhere else along with these anywhere else as well. That's basically what that ability is. And then their goal is to control at least one group of each alignment. And then a group that has more than one counts for each and every single one. So for example, the underground newspapers is both communist and liberal, so that's 2 out of the 10 that you can get. And there are some that have, like, I believe 3 is the max. There are a couple of expansions for this game that I unfortunately don't have, and they've got a lot of alignments on those. Next up, the Gnomes of Zurich. These are the guys in Switzerland who are holding on to all the money, essentially. And basically, these guys are allowed to move money freely instead of having to spend actions for it. They can move around. You can see they've got a huge income of 12. And their special goal is also related to money. If they collect 150 megabucks, then they win. And that's on the entirety of their power tree. So don't let these guys get high income things, whatever they happen to be. Next up is the Network. The Network's ability is actually pretty cool. These guys turn over 2 cards at the beginning of the turn rather than just 1, and they have decently balanced power and income. And their thing is to have, I believe it is transferable power. Yes, control groups with a total transferable power of 25, including the 7 that they start with. So that's why something like the Post Office would be really good for them, because the Post Office has 3 transferable power on the right side of the slash there. So this would be really good for the Network. Next up, and last but certainly not least, is the UFOs. Woo! So first, the UFOs' major power is that this Illuminati group is able to participate in 2 attacks rather than just 1. Ordinarily, everybody's only limited to doing 1 attack with each group. You can use the transferable power of a group, but then you can't use that group to attack. For example, the UFOs break that rule. Their special goal is whatever you want it to be. The UFO's special goal is actually at the beginning of the game, you pick one of the other goals, and that will be your goal to do. So just, it's important to basically know the other 7, or you can just look it up, whatever it is. But the UFOs, this is one that's better for more advanced play, because that way, if you already know what the goals are, then it's less of an issue. Okay? So, like I said, this is a very big game, so I know that there's a lot to take in, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to play through a couple of rounds so that you guys can see what happens, and then I'll just sort of speed things up, and I'll just add stuff randomly so that you can see how some of the other stuff plays out as well. So at the start of the game, everybody gets their income on their particular thing. You know the thing. They're Illuminati, so these are already good. So say the Bermuda Triangle is going first. So the first thing, we draw a card. Right, there we go. I don't know how to pronounce that first word. But Tri-Liberal Commission, I believe is how it is. So that is liberal and straight. It's actually got decent power, resistance, and income. And now, as the Bermuda Triangle, I am going to attack to control the Tri-Liberal Commission. So it's got a resistance of 6, which is pretty high. I've got a power of 8, so it's 8 minus 6, which is 2. and I'm going to spend 7. So now I'm at 9. I have to roll a 9 on the total of 9 or lower on the 2 dice, and I'll be able to get it. We ask, does anybody care? Is anybody going to spend money to prevent me from doing this? No. Okay? So we roll, and I got 12. 12 always fails no matter what. It's a shame. And incidentally, I forgot to get my income. Now the problem is, you can spend as much money as you want, but no matter what, if you roll an 11 or a 12, it will always, always, always fail, unfortunately. So now we'll move over to the gnomes. The gnomes will take their massive 12 income. They draw a card. Ooh, it's the KKK. Ugh, unpleasant. So the gnomes are looking for income. So they definitely want to go for Hollywood, because Hollywood has an income of 5. That is huge for the gnomes. So that's power of 7 for the gnomes over here, minus the resistance of 0 from Hollywood. So they're going to add on an additional, let's say, 3. So now they're at 10. Now, does anybody care? Well, yes. In this case, we care. Currently, they are at 10, and the network is going to spend 3, put them back to 7. So now the gnomes are going to spend 1 to put them at 8, and then get change. And okay. And now they're technically at 11 because they spent an additional 3. So now the UFOs are like, no, you can't have that super high income. There's a 5. Now you're at 6. Okay, well, fine, says the gnomes. We will spend another 3, and now we are at 9 to control Hollywood. Oh, does anyone else care? Oh, I don't know, I don't want to spend more money, etc., etc. Nobody cares. We're rolling. They're at 9. Oh, and look at that. They rolled a 7. Because they rolled a 7, they needed a 9 or less. They got it. So now the gnomes control Hollywood, and they're allowed to do a free money move. So this is looking bad for everybody else, because already the gnomes of Zurich have a huge advantage because they got a massive income. But that's generally how the table dynamic works. These people are going to start to control this. We can't let them do that, because that's going to be very, very helpful for whatever their goal is, etc., etc. That's really what you're looking to try and prevent. Okay? And now it's the network's turn. So the network, their power is they draw 2 cards instead of just 1. Oh, and look at that. So they got a special card. The special card, they say, I got a special card, and they put it face down in front of them. The other one is the South American Nazis, another unpleasant group. So the network is looking for transferable power, so it will take the post office, or it'll try to. It's a little bit early to have such a negative value, but it's going to go a long way into helping them achieve their final goal. I forgot to give them their income as well. So they're going after the post office. Power 7 versus resistance 3 is 4. So there's 4, and now it's 8. Well, we don't want to roll on 8, we want to roll on 10. So there's another 3, now they're at 11. Does anybody care? Oh, Bermuda Triangle cares. Bermuda Triangle cares. So now, spending a 2, they're at 9. Okay, well, fine, says the network. Back at 11. So this is how the dynamic goes. Again, this is basically what happens. And now they're rolling at 11 for the post office. The gnomes, they don't want to spend anything because they're the gnomes. Now, Hollywood over here has a couple of megabucks on it. It's got a couple of little tokens. But the problem is, in order to spend money to stop somebody from doing something, you have to spend it from the Illuminati, not from one of the ancillary groups. So the gnomes would have to spend from this rather than from Hollywood. They could have, but they moved that money over, so they can't do anything, unfortunately. Not that they want to, because they're gnomes and they're trying to save their money so that they can win the game with their special. Alright, so the post office the network is rolling for the post office. They've got 11, and they rolled a 9, so they're good. They get to take the post office. They put it down in whatever orientation they wish. Put it like that, it doesn't really matter. And then they'll do a full-fledged money move because they want to protect that transferable power. Okay, so that's basically how the game goes. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to speed things up. I'm going to give some random groups so that you guys can see some of the other stuff that that happens and some of the other actions that you're able to take. So to start off, I'll just take some random things here. Ooh, comic books. Bermuda Triangle would like comic books. American Auto Duel Association. That can go over here for the network. Why not? TV Preachers, that's kind of fun. There, the gnomes can have that one. And let's say that I've got a special here. The network has the hackers that are controlled by the American Auto Duel Association because why not? Ironically, the UFOs have the Flat Earthers because who cares? Flat Earthers control Texas because we're trying to be hilarious. Let's see what else. And this will be a fun one. The Bermuda Triangle will control the Men in Black. And last but certainly not least, comic books are responsible for junk mail. So just to sort of expand everything out a little bit for us. Ooh, I want UFOs to control fast food chains because it's funny. So that's a big part of this game, just like with any Steve Jackson game. It's a good portion of what's going on is basically just related to the humor. And there's some really hilarious stuff that goes on within this game that just makes it insanely fun and completely and utterly ridiculous. So I am literally just taking random monies. I don't know what I'm grabbing. I could be grabbing 20s and 50s. But it doesn't really matter for the purposes of what I'm trying to show. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to demonstrate to you all how some of the other stuff works, and more importantly, how the rules change when you have a lot more groups that are capable of doing more things. Okay. And especially when it comes to like attacking your friends and stuff like that. Okay. And let's say that we've got a couple other things available here. Ha, libertarians. I think that's funny. Statue of Liberty is smacking the Capitol building. All right. So now we've got a little bit of stuff built up here. We've got some way that we can go and we can do a couple of little things. Actually, one thing I'm going to do, I'm going to say the Tri-Liberal Commission here, so that I can use it to attack, basically. Okay, now, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to demonstrate a couple of important things. I'm going to demonstrate transferable power, and I'm going to demonstrate what you're doing when you're attacking from a group, from a separate group other than your Illuminati. So down here I've got the Tri-Liberal Commission, and it is liberal and straight. So remember, we want to look for things that are the same. We don't want things that are opposite because that's very, very bad. So, for example, the South American Nazis are conservative. They're also violent, but for our purposes, they're conservative, so that's the opposite of liberal, which is bad. We don't want that. Conservative and violent, the KKK, no, that won't work either. So remember, we are looking for liberal and straight both. Definitely not the opposite, but anything else doesn't really matter. I mean, libertarians maybe, but that doesn't help us too much. So we'll go for underground newspapers. Underground newspapers are pretty cool. They're communist and liberal, and if you remember, the Bermuda Triangle, the goal is to have all 10 alignments. And the thing is that right now, there is no communist for our poor Bermuda Triangle. So we're going to try and attack the underground newspapers using the Tri-Liberal Commission. So they are both liberal, which means that we're automatically at a +4. So we have a power of 5 versus a resistance of 5, so that's null. And so what we're going to do, we're at 0 and then +4 for the matching alignments. So then 4, and we'll add on another 6. So that's 10. Okay, now we can roll on this. Does anybody care? Anybody care? Anybody care? So remember, right now, this is where people have to spend from their Illuminati group only. They can't spend from anywhere else. So we're going to go ahead and roll on the 10. And roll. Okay, so there we go. That's 7. Excellent. We got it. Huzzah! And now we have the underground newspaper. So we'll do a quick money move there. Now, that was my first action, and I didn't use anything that I can no longer use, essentially. So what I can do is I can actually use the Bermuda Triangle still, because I didn't attack with the Bermuda Triangle, I attacked with the Tri-Liberal Commission. So now I can go after, I don't know, something crazy. Like, let's say science fiction fans. They're weird, which I actually don't need weird, but what do I need? There we go. I need both conservative and violent. So the South American Nazis, right? So 8 power versus 6 resistance. So I'm at a 2. And then I can spend money from here. So that's another 7. So that's 9. And I'll take the risk on that. Does anybody care? Anybody care? No, nobody cares. Rolling and hoping for a 9. Look at that. I rolled a 4. Excellent. South American Nazis. Now you can see we've got a bit of a problem here. The South American Nazis have outgoing arrows here and here. The problem is, on my little power tree, I already have both of those spaces occupied. So what I need to do now is I need to move stuff around. Thankfully, since I am the Bermuda Triangle, at the end of my turn, I'm allowed to freely rearrange this. If I was anybody else, I would have had to, essentially, I would have just had to change it in such a way that, and not that, but I would have to spend actions to do so, and I would have to keep these things together. So I would have to move these as a group, for example. Oops, I didn't mean to steal all that money. Oh, sorry. But since I am the Bermuda Triangle, I can rearrange them as I see fit. So in this case here, I'll move this forward so you don't see my little box there. We're going high tech to film this. So for example, I could take the South American Nazis and I could put them over here with junk mail, or what might be a better idea is I could swap these around, and then I could, actually here we'll do it like this. There we go. Now the South American Nazis control the Tri-Liberal Commission and the underground newspapers. That's good for now, it'll work. Okay? Next, the other major thing is for transferable power. So the way that transferable power works is the same way as regular power, but again, it's the thing that's on the opposite side of the slash sign. So we'll go with the Bermuda Triangle again, and look, we got the intellectuals. Okay? So let's say we want, oh, I don't know, they've got a resistance 3. We'll say we'll go ahead and attack with the Tri-Liberal Commission. So these guys are weird and fanatic. So there's no alignment bonus, but we're looking at a power of 5 versus a resistance of 3. So that's a net of 2 right now. And then I'll take the 8 transferable power from my Bermuda Triangle and the 2 from the Men in Black, so that's a total of an additional 10. So with that, that's essentially the equivalent of 15 power to 3 resistance, so right now I'm at a 12. In other words, if I roll anything except an 11 or a 12, I'm going to win. Unless anybody cares, nobody cares. We can roll, yay, I got an 8. Now the Tri-Liberal Commission controls the intellectuals. Blah, ha, ha, ha. Very exciting, very exciting. Okay? And so that's how transferable power works. But now, if I wanted to, for my second action, I would not be able to use the Bermuda Triangle because I already used its power. I already used that. The UFO, on the other hand, they are able to attack twice. They can use their power in any sense. Normally, you can only do that once. So that's how gaining the groups really affects what you are and are not able to do in this. But like I said, I know it's long. I know there's a lot to take in. It really is a great game. It's a ton of fun. The humor is absolutely amazing. And just to really drive that point home, I wanted to just show you, in the instructions, there are several variants that you can play. But you see, first off, the instructions themselves are really long. It's 16 pages of instructions. So that's why this video is so long here. But one of the biggest things here is in advanced rules. As a variant, cheating. That's right. They actually give you suggestions on how you can cheat. this game is absolutely insane. But it is noted that we recommend you only play the cheating game only with very good friends or with people you will never see again. It can get very, very ugly. So, just stuff like that. But there are also things where, like, for example, you don't expose who your Illuminati is. So that way everybody might be doing anything or everything or whatever. And the thing with that... You are only using, like, for example, if you're the gnomes, then you still get your 12 income, but the thing is that you're not required to use everything. You're not required to use all of it, and everything is secret, essentially. But you can actually try to expose somebody and say, I think you're the so-and-so. That counts as an action, but if you are correct, that means that they have to flip themselves face up. So, whatever. But then the whole point is that after you're face up, then they know what your special goal is. So either way, the game itself will take probably about an hour and a half to 2 hours to play, depending on with whom you're playing. After you get everything going relatively efficiently, it's a lot of fun. There is a ridiculous amount of table talk, as you saw, where it comes down to a lot of times, like, for example, with the gnomes especially, if they're trying to get a high income card, then it's just like, I've been carrying this whole thing this entire time. You guys have to spend some money to stop this thing. They're like, no, I can't spend any money to stop this. I need my own money for this, and blah, 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 and all that kind of stuff. So it gets very ridiculous very, very quickly. All right. The last little note that I'm going to do is how the neutralization works from other people. So, for example, if I wanted to try to neutralize the TV preachers, then it is the same thing. It's the power versus the resistance. So in the case of, let's say I'm attacking from my Illuminati, it's 8 versus 6, so I'd be at a 2, but I'll go ahead and flip to the page so that you guys can see the fancy... Oh, whoops, I passed it by. So you all can see the diagram that I'll be talking about. So this is essentially the defensive grid that everything has. So this right here is the Illuminati, and the resistance immediately adjacent to an Illuminati is plus 10. The ancillary directly behind that, the secondary, you could say, is plus 5, and then it goes plus 2, and then 0 for the, I guess you could say, primary, secondary, tertiary, and quaternary, if you want to get biological on it. All right? So essentially, instead of the TV preachers here being only a resistance 6, they have the equivalent of a resistance 16, since they are directly adjacent to the main to the main Illuminati card right here. So it's very, very difficult to neutralize this. But let's say that for whatever reason I managed to do it. Essentially what happens is the money that is on this card counts double. So instead of only reducing the die roll by 1, it reduces it by 2. Anything from the Illuminati here will still reduce it by 1, and then you can't spend any money from anything else. If I succeed at the neutralization, then both of these cards are taken up, the money goes back in the bank, and they go back into the middle of the table as uncontrolled. Sorry about that. So now they're back in the middle of the table there. That is an example of the neutralization. As I said, in order to do the destroy, that is power versus power. The biggest thing about destroy is you can do it against either an opponent, or you can do it to something that is in the middle of the table, one of the uncontrolled ones. It doesn't matter. And then those are just removed from the game entirely. But either way, it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of kookiness. Again, I know that this was a very, very long demonstration, but there is a lot to talk about with it. It is a very, very fun game. I highly recommend playing it, preferably with somebody who already knows how. That will be a huge help in getting everything going much, much faster. But definitely give it a try without a doubt. All of the references are absolutely amazing. Oh, see, there's a really good one, the CIA. That one's fun. But yeah, just really, really cool stuff. I mean, look, copy shops. Why are there copy shops in here? But that's why it's so hilarious. It makes no sense. Ooh, here you go. SMOF. SMOF. So SMOF is an acronym. It stands for Secret Masters of Fandom. and they get additional bonuses to control Trekkies and that stuff. So see, there's the Trekkies. I mean, just really wacky, crazy references like that. And then they have so-called normal things like, oh, here's funny, tobacco and liquor companies trying to give a bunch of stuff to kids. I mean, it's insane. It is ridiculous insanity. One very important thing, one house rule that I always play with is whenever you play this, if you win, if you get whatever groups you need, whether it's by the special rule or by the general rule of the number of groups to have, you have to be able to explain your tree. So in my case, why is it that the South American Nazis care about underground newspapers? Why is it that comic books are controlling junk mail and stuff like that? That is an extremely big house rule that I like to play with just because I think it makes it a lot more fun. But you, by no means are you ever obligated to do so. I just think it's a fun little variant to do. But either way, I have talked very, very long enough about this game. Again, it is very, very fun. Highly recommended. Go out, try it out. One thing, organize the money. It helps a great deal to have like the 1s and the 5s and the 3s and the 2s separated. So please do that. Just make sure that you don't forget anything. Just as a very brief summary, again, you start off with your sequence of play, which is the collect the income, draw your card, take your 2 actions, take any free actions that you wish to do, which basically means I could just arbitrarily get rid of this group. I don't know why I would do that, but I could if I wanted to. You can transfer money between groups if they're adjacent to one another, and you can do anything on a special card if you so desire. And those just say what they're able to do. But basically, again, everything is on the back of the instructions if you so desire to buy the game. This does a nice, very nice little summary there. See at the top corner, it's got the alignments as well as what their opposites are, the sequence, what the different actions are, how the attacks work, all of the different bonuses that you get, for example, the same versus different alignments, anything that you're spending, all of that kind of stuff. I mean, it's a really great little summary that tells you everything you need to know. But with that, thank you very much for watching. I know this was a relatively overly long thing, but I'm going to go on ahead now and start talking about the pros and cons of this game, as well as just my general conclusion. So thank you very much for watching this part. As I mentioned, the gameplay demo aspect was pretty long, but I do hope that you really enjoyed it, and most importantly, I hope that you got a little bit of insight into how Illuminati works, and most importantly, how absolutely incredible the game can be when you really get going with the back and forth, table talk, all of that kind of stuff, if you have a decent number of players. So, with that, I'm going to go ahead and jump right into some pros and cons for the game. First and foremost, my favorite thing about this game, my favorite pro, is the humor. I know I say it all the time about pretty much any game from Steve Jackson Games, but I love the humor style. I also love the art, incidentally, but the humor just really gets me. I mean, having stuff like the Smoth and having things like the Goldfish Fanciers, it's like what are these people even thinking? But at the same time, I can't help but laughing every single time I see these. It's just ludicrous. It makes no sense. And just the whole premise of the idea of everybody is playing as an Illuminati group and just controlling different aspects of the world. I mean, the conspiracy theorists just go nuts for this kind of stuff. It's absolutely incredible. Second major pro is just the idea of the surprisingly deep strategy that this game has. It is a fairly simple card game in the end. It boils down to you are using your cards to get other cards. Granted, there are things that get in the way, including other players. So I really, really enjoy the strategic aspects. Another pro, I really, really love the negotiation that you can go through. I love that you can essentially beg people to try to help you out instead of helping out the other people. And, you know, maybe you give a little bit of future consideration, you know, stuff like that. Like, how do you negotiate? What do you negotiate with? It's absolutely amazing what you can do in this game. I mean, just being able to literally bribe another player with one of your groups or something like that. You can very easily do that. The negotiation is amazing. A few of the cons. The first and foremost con is because it is a relatively strategic game, it's a longer game, it can be very difficult, especially for new players, to really start to grasp the rules. It's one of the games that you really have to play to understand much, much better. Simply because if you just read the rules, then you're just like, say, what? A lot of the rules just print on paper don't make a lot of sense, but the rules in the context of actually playing the game are really where it comes to life, just like mini games. It's not really an uncommon thing. That said, my second major con is the time. I mean, again, obviously it is a bigger game, it's a more strategic game, more complex, so therefore it takes a lot longer to play, and it is one of the games that people that I have played with at least tend to get burnt out on, especially if there's a lot of back and forth in terms of this group goes to this person, but then it goes over to this other person, this and this and this, and if the groups are really moving around a lot, if there's the player interaction in terms of directly attacking other players, then it makes the game go on for much longer, and it can be a little bit frustrating. On that same note, along the same lines is you can have a sort of kingmaker mechanic where one person just ends up spending all of their money to help somebody else out for no reason other than they either want the game to end, they want that particular person to win, or they're just trying to screw over somebody else effectively. So you do have the potential for that, although I have not experienced that too much, but mostly just when it's like late into the game night and people are just like, oh, I want to go home, then that's when that kind of mentality can kick in. But overall, as I said at the very beginning, this is a wonderful game. It's one of my favorites that I actually started playing when I first started playing board games, like the more real board games, so to speak. And I still love it to this day. I got my own copy even after playing a lot, many years with somebody else's copy. Unfortunately, like I said, I do not have the expansions, which have some really interesting new rules, new twists, just in the context of some new Illuminatis, all that kind of stuff. But either way, it's a great game. It's at the very least worth giving it a try. Again, it's a small game, relatively inexpensive, so worth it at least trying out at your friendly local game store with your gaming group if somebody happens to have a copy. Highly recommended. Illuminati, a great area control / press your luck / auction / earn money / what are you doing, what's your hidden role, what is your hidden goal, all of that kind of stuff. Amazing game with a whole lot of different stuff all wrapped up into one. I hope that you enjoyed my review and my gameplay demo on Illuminati. With that, as always, if you have any feedback for the review in general, how I do it, what I talked about, what I didn't talk about, all of that kind of stuff, please feel free to put it in the comments below, since I know that this is still a new segment for me to do. And as always also, if you have any suggestions for games that you would like to see me review, please feel free to put those down below as well. So with that, thank you so much for watching. Once again, I hope that you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time. Thank you very much for watching my review of the amazing game Illuminati. I know that it was a long one, but I hope that you stuck through with it, and most importantly, I hope that you learned something about the game, and more importantly, are intrigued to try it out for yourself, whether you get your own copy or try somebody else's. As always, please feel free to give me any and all feedback regarding the review itself in the comments below, as well as any games that you'd like to see me review in the future, and check out some of my playlists linked up at the top of the page. And if you want to see more from me from now on, go ahead and click that big giant subscribe button. Thank you very much, and I will see you next time.